to everyone. Um, as I said, I'm Carlos Mairoce. I've already introduced myself to some of you. That's my name. I'm from Mozambique. I'm a social activist. So I've been working with local communities in Mozambique, with civil society organizations. Basically is to empower them and how to react to international organizations like Vale. We have many mega projects in Mozambique. So most of the times our communities, they are not prepared to deal with those local communities. Lack of education is also one of the problems, and in most of the times they don't even know what's going on. They just see huge companies like Vale, Jindal, that are in Mozambique. They come and they have their stuff and they start extracting coal. So we have started to work with local communities and trying to instruct them what's going on. So this is basically what I'm going to talk about. My presentation is going to be based on a research that I've done. So in the end, I don't even know whether I'm going to share more about the research or about my work as an activist. And that's also another question. When someone is an activist, because when the person is doing a research, most of the times, is supposed to be neutral. You know all these rules of academics. You have to be neutral. Like journalists, you don't take sides. But as a social activist, I'm not neutral. You have to know about that. I take sides, and my side is I support the side of the local community. So that's my position. So I'll give you a little bit of my research, and after that I'll tell you what I've been doing as a social activist, and the reactions also from this mega project, because as you should know, these companies are giants and they are very powerful. They're even more powerful than the government. So when they arrive, they dictate the rules. So it's not easy to deal with them. So I'll also try to share with you some reactions from the government. So basically my presentation is going to be, I'm going to try to give you a little bit of the introduction of what's going on in Tete. Yeah. This is the state or the province where this process is going on. And after this small introduction, I'm going to give you the objective of this work. Why am I doing this? What's the aim of doing this work? So after the objective, I'll give the context of what's going on in Moatize, because I'll just talk about Vale. Vale is just one mega project which is in Moatize. Moatize is the district, yeah, where Vale is operating so far. But I'll try to give the whole context, what's going on in Moatize, because it's not only Vale which is there. We have so many international companies that are there extracting coal. But for the sake of just this presentation, I'll talk of Vale, and maybe later you can ask me what's going on with other mega projects also. And after that, I'll talk about the effects, social effects of this extraction. Social effects. After the social effects, I'll try to share with you some cultural effects. Most of the times you don't hear much about cultural effects, because people are not concerned about what goes on about the culture, whether local communities have their religion in those places, whether there's something that is being lost. People are not concerned. Most of the times when we talk about displacement, we deal with social effects and environmental effects also. So I also tried to bring in a little bit of cultural effects, because those people have their own religion. Yeah. we are in Africa. We don't have Catholicism is in that area in Moatize is not so strong. So most people have their own cultural, traditional religion. So I'll also try to see what happens with those traditions. Yeah. So, and finally, I'll try to talk about the resistance mechanism that we as social activists are trying to put up, trying to instruct the local community and how to deal with them. And later, I think I'll give you time to ask questions and to maybe share more from your experiences, new ideas, what can be done from that perspective. First of all, on the objectives of this research, the first objective, why I did this research, I'll say I, but this is a group research because it was done by an NGO where I'm working with. So the first objective is we wanted to know the effects of mega projects for local communities, because since the beginning we started trying to deal with the government and saying this is not something bad, this is not something good. So most of the times the government says, okay, support your position. We don't have anything written. So it's very difficult to support our position if we don't have anything written. And you will find that in most places in Africa, the government is going to tell you, support your position. Do you have evidence? Do you have scientific data which says that this is wrong or what's wrong? So we don't have that, and the government just says, okay, we can't discuss. So from that point, we decided we can start doing research because we have people who are prepared to do that. Yeah. So we decided to do this research. So that's one of the objectives, to bring in reliable data, and in order to talk to the government, this is happening, these are the effects, these are the consequences. And the other point is to understand the interaction. We wanted also to understand what's going on between Vale and the local communities, because there's interaction going on. Yeah. We have a rule, or a law in Mozambique, which is called the mining law. So the mining law says any company that wants to work in Mozambique, it has to first of all talk to the local community, yeah, and ask the local community whether they are welcomed in that area or not. Yeah. So there's a lot of interaction. In that point, we also wanted to understand whether these multinationals are following the rules. Yeah. And the other objective, after getting all the results, we also wanted to work with local communities. But to work with local communities, we have to start from somewhere. So this work also helped to lay basis on that sense, that it will be a sort of a paper where we would look at and see what we should do for local communities. And of course, the other objective is to fight for social justice. Yeah, because when we started to do our research, it was clear for us that there were some things that were wrong. So we have to fight for social justice. And finally, to contribute to the debate of coal mining, because Mozambique has discovered a lot of huge quantities of coal so far. I think just Moatize, where this case study is based, is now among the 5 major coal reserves in the world. So you can imagine that there are many mega companies, mega projects that are willing to go there because they know the potentiality that is there. There's a lot of coal. So, as I said, Moatize is something that many mega projects wants to go there. So, when did these coal was discovered, because Vale just went to Tete in 2008. So Moatize, for us Mozambicans, we always knew that Moatize had coal. So even in the beginning of 20th century, we already knew that there was coal. There were some companies that were not Mozambican, because at that time Mozambique was under the Portuguese, under the Portugal. It was a colony of Portugal. So at that time, there was a company that was extracting coal, and it was not even a Portuguese company. It was a Belgian company that was extracting coal at that time. So after independence in 1975, a Mozambican company called Carbomoc took over. But not much, it didn't produce much, because most of the coal that Carbomoc was extracting, it was more to run trains, those old trains. When those old trains stopped, then the coal industry in Mozambique, it just stopped. So we used to look at it, oh, okay, there was a company called Carbomoc, but after that, nothing. So in 2004, there was an international tender which was launched by the government. So this giant Vale won this international tender. So in 2008, Vale came to Mozambique. So the biggest difference between all the companies that started coal in Moatize with Vale is that Vale is using a different method. The former companies like Carbomoc and the Belgian company that have been extracting coal in the past, they were using underground mining, which means that they could bring their machines and extract everything underground. Now Vale is extracting coal on the open pit mining, which means that it's all open. Yeah. And you can imagine there's a lot of dust and all environmental problems that can come from it. Now the problem starts from there. If it's an open pit mining, then people cannot be around the concession of Vale. So the first thing that Vale had to do, it was to remove every community from that were living close to the mining concession. But the area is so huge that inside the mining concession there were almost 4 communities. Those were inside the mining, so they had to be removed. And one of the points which is really interesting is that we always say we cannot avoid not to remove people. Whenever we are talking of mining, and especially if it's an open pit mining, we have to remove people because of safety, health reasons, and many other things. We have to remove the people. But the problem is not removing, but the problem is how were they removed. So Vale didn't follow the rules. The rule says, first of all, they should talk to the people and explain to them that we have given this concession. Do you agree that we should extract coal in this place? Because those communities have been living there for generations. Some people are more than 8 years old, but they have been living there. They were born there. Their life is summarized in that place. So they think of themselves, when they think as Mozambican, they think of themselves as part of that place. So this company comes and says, you have to leave this place because we were given by the government, we want to start coal. So that did not happen. What happened? Vale, and even the government was not there. They came with with some people. I don't know whether it's a technical commission of Vale. Instead of talking to the local community, they started talking to local chiefs, because each community has a chief. So they tried to convince the chiefs that, well, we were coming and we are going to bring a lot of employment, and everyone is going to work in this place, so we want your signatures. And of course, those local communities, the leaders of those local communities do not understand the whole process. They were given some motorcycles, so they signed. Yeah, it was like they were bribed, so they signed all the papers. So what local communities were seeing is just a movement from unknown people, basically people from Vale coming and talking to local leaders. But for people, it was okay, it's normal to see people coming in our community and talking to our leaders. It's okay. So they didn't suspect what was going on. But after signing all the documents, Vale just came and informed local communities that you have to be moved from this place because we have this contract and you have agreed that we should use this. And everyone was surprised because they never had a meeting with Vale. But they showed all the documents and they were signed by local community leaders. So the problem starts there. These local communities tried to talk to the local government. The local government said, well, we're not in the process, but if there are signed documents, it means that you have to leave the place. Yeah. And it was too late for the local communities to fight. So at that time, some civil society organizations started to try to deal with the government and the company, try to understand what is going on. So after that process, Vale showed some documents. They said, well, we are going to move people, but we're going to give them houses. Yeah. But they had already taken all the data about the local community, how many people were living in the community, and they said, we are going to give them houses, better houses than the ones they have now, and we are going to build schools, clinics, hospitals, and all the things. So local communities, they were also excited, and you are going to be given also jobs. So people said, okay, if that's the point, let's see what's going to happen. People were moved after some months. That was in 2000. The process started in 2009. But when people moved, something strange happened, because before people were moved, Vale presented a plan of houses that would be built. So the government agreed. Yeah, even we also saw the plans. Yeah, and they were improved houses, and we said, okay, if these are the houses, well, I think it's going to be something more or less good. But when the houses were concluded, we went there to see the houses. They were totally different. The houses did not have foundations. The ceiling of the houses had already a problem. When it rains, they leak, so there's a lot of water inside the houses. So that's what Vale did. And the local community said, we are not going to take these houses. Yeah. So there was a lot of problem. Civil society organizations had to intervene, but people had to go there because they had no option. And their houses were being destroyed. So local communities has to move to that place. But only 713 communities moved to that new place, because other families, something like 200 families, refused to go to those local communities. And there are also other communities that were resettled in a different place. So Vale divided the resettlement in two places. One resettlement was put something like 45 kilometers from the concession of Vale, which is very far. The other one was put something like 10 kilometers from the concession. And they divided this resettlement in two groups. One, they called it semi-rural families, those who had poor houses. And those people also who did not have employment, they were put in a list of semi-rural communities. So that group was sent to Kateme. It's a place which is 45 kilometers from Tete. They were considered poor people, no employment, so they had to be 45 kilometers from the concession. And also Vale predicted that those people could maybe later be a source of problem. So you cannot walk 45 kilometers and go on strike again. It's a lot. So it was well taught for Vale. So those people who had employment, better houses, they were put something like 10 kilometers away from the concession. So, and these ones, they were called semi-urban families. So people were divided according to their social status. Yeah. And another point that was seen in this process, apart from people being divided into groups, most of these communities, they live based on farming. Yeah. And in Mwatize, where there is a Vale concession, the land is fertile. And there's a huge river that crosses those communities. In fact, those communities were built there because of the river, which is close to the concession so far. But now, in Kateme, where these communities were sent, there's no river. It's a bit that I didn't even bring some pictures. You could see the soil is not even proper for agriculture. There are stones, yeah, and there's no water, no hospital, no school. So Kateme, there's nothing, no market. Yeah. So what the company just did is to go at the middle of nowhere, build those houses, and when the community went there, they said, okay, you have decided to bring us here. We don't have the support of the government, because Vale seems to be even more powerful than the government. So where are we going to get water from? Most of those communities, they have cows, because those are rural communities. Where are we going to get water from? Where are we going to farm? How are we going to farm, because this land is not proper for farming? And how are we going to survive, because we have kids, they have to go to school. We don't have hospitals here. To go to town, we need we cannot walk for 45 kilometers, we need transportation, and there's no public transportation there. So Vale just decided to say, we are going to bring water for you every day. We are going to give you transport, which is going to be moving to town once a week. And for the rest, we'll see what we can do. We are going to build a school, a hospital, but those things up till now, nothing has happened. Since 2012 that those promises were given, up till now, nothing has happened. So people started going on strike. Yeah, people said, okay, the best way to do is to go on strike, because Vale has promised a lot of things, but nothing is being done. So those are some of the effects. But apart from the houses being small, having problems, the houses started having cracks. Yeah, before even 2 years, because Tete, Mwatize, this place we are talking about, is very hot. Yeah, temperatures go up to 45 degrees. So you can see what can happen. So the houses were not prepared. They started having cracks. So as we are talking, last week, Vale also sent some people to go there and see what they can do with the houses, because those houses are not going to survive for more than 5 years. Yeah. So what people started doing in those local communities, some people have decided just to leave those local communities because they feel like there are no conditions to live there, because without water, nothing can be done. Yeah. Most of their cattle is dying. Yeah. Those animals they took there, there's no food because there's no plants for those animals. So in the end, life is just difficult for people and for animals. So this is also another challenge. And what we can say is that all the promise that Vale tried to give to people, they were broken. So nothing was fulfilled. Up till now, those communities still feel like they were cheated because all those promises of employment, they don't have employment. Yeah. They are still poor because people used to believe that, okay, if multinationals come, it means that our life is going to be improved. Nothing has changed. Actually, they are even poorer than before the coming of Vale. Because when they were staying in Mwatize, they could go for fishing, they could go for farming because they had a river. Food, it was not a problem for them. But now everything is a problem. So the coming of Vale brought more disgrace to those local people. Yeah. And concerning cultural issues, most of these local communities have their own traditional religions. They have their shrines. I don't know whether you are aware of that. Those are the places where those people go to worship their ancestors. Yeah, they have this belief on their ancestors. And actually they have something which is very interesting. When we go there, when we talk to them, they always tell us our ancestors are not happy with us. Yeah. Even if we don't understand some of their traditions, we ask them why. Because whenever we are supposed to move from one place to the other, we are supposed to inform our ancestors. But the way we were moved from this place with Vale, we had no time. So our cemeteries are still there in the concession, and we don't know what is happening to them. And for them, cemeteries are something very important. They always go there. And they believe that they talk to those who have passed away. So removing them from that environment is like they feel like they were abandoned. Their ancestors are not protecting them so far because their ancestors do not know that they have been moved. Yeah. So there's this dilemma, and sometimes we as social activists, we ask ourselves, how can we solve this? Because this is a religious, cultural problem that sometimes is just difficult to solve. Yeah. And the Vale did not even pay attention to this. And I remember in one of our discussions with Vale, we asked them whether they are aware of these cultural and traditional factors. They said, we don't know about this. And the government didn't tell us anything about these cultural effects, whatever, with local communities. So this is also one of the things that makes those communities very sad. Yeah, it makes them sometimes like, I don't know, it can be also psychological, but they feel like all is going bad because they did not talk to their ancestors. So this is one of the problems. Yeah. So Vale also did not pay attention to that. Nothing was moved from that place. Even their dead or their ancestors, whatever, they are supposed to do some ceremonies to take all the shrines, all cultural factors to the other place, but nothing was done. And on the environmental factors, so far we have the problem of water, yeah, because as I said, only 4 communities were moved. Those communities that were outside the concession of Vale, because there are some communities that are there, are close to Vale concession, but they're not inside. So those communities were not moved. But now the problem is those communities are being informed that they cannot consume the water which is in the river because the water is contaminated so far. Even they cannot fish in those rivers. Yeah. So some animals that, those communities that were not moved, they are dying. Yeah. Those animals that stayed behind, they are also dying. Now, Even the fountains, because people most of the times they get water from fountains. Now they cannot get that water, not because they were told, because the water is dirty. The water now is black. Yeah. And the other point, which is very clear to everyone in those communities, is that the leaves of the trees in Mwatize now they are black, and it's very clear for everyone that there's a problem of environment. Yeah. And there are new diseases that were not there, like tuberculosis, yeah, and lung diseases. And the people are saying, okay, this definite tuberculosis and lung disease, all diseases that affect the lung. Yeah, so now local communities are saying, what can we do? Maybe the best way is to try to look for better places where we can go. Yeah. So these are some of the effects. Yeah. Now the point is, what is the government doing with all this, and what's the role of civil society organizations? First of all, I would say that the government is very weak. Yeah. And Vale is a company which is coming from Brazil. Vale understands how the government of Mozambique works. Yeah. So the first thing they did when they came to Mozambique, they decided to bribe also the leaders, not only the local leaders in the community, but even governors. Even the president himself was invited to go to Brazil to discuss with the president of Vale in Brazil. And from there, nothing that can Vale do, no one can get Vale accountable for anything. And I remember one of the meetings we had with Vale, we told them, well, we are going to court. They said nothing is going to happen. And you know that. So you are just wasting your time. So as you can see, they know how the system works. They bribe governors. So what we have now is a challenge for civil society organizations. And I should also say that even civil society organizations, there are not many who are dealing with these issues, because social activists like me, we are seen like a part of the opposition. Yeah. When we start dealing with this issue, they say, okay, these are not social activists, these are political activists. So they're against the government. Yeah. So it's a very tough work, because what we are doing now is to talk to the local communities and tell them, you can resist. First of all, we can try to talk. Yeah. Before we go on strike, we try to talk with the government and with Vale and see what can be done. So if we fail in our talks, then we can go on strike. So what we are trying to do as social activists in Tete now is to instruct local communities, to teach them about the local law, about the land and the mining law, to tell them what are their rights, what are their duties also, what they can do maybe to stop situations like these ones. Yeah, because Vale is just one case, and most of the times in the case of Vale, it's sad because it's too late to stop Vale so far. But there are many other companies coming. So what we are doing now with local communities, we use the case of Vale and look, this is what is going to happen if you don't act. You have to start doing something for yourselves. Do not expect people from outside to come and protect you. You have to do something for yourself. But as I said, there are very few local civil societies that are doing this work. What we do, we tell them, we instruct you, and you fight for yourselves. We cannot always be here, because sometimes when they come, we are not there. And sometimes we live very far from local communities. So you have to learn and tell them, did you fulfill this? Did you fulfill that? We want to see whether you have fulfilled the law. If we are to have, for instance, if we are to be relocated from one place to the other, we want to see the whole process. if we are to sign documents, we want to see how the whole process starts and ends in order to make sure that the process is fair. So this is what we are trying to do, but it has not been easy, yeah, because we have communities that have been already relocated and they feel like the best way now is to go on strike. Yeah. So most of the times they go on strike, they fight against the company. So when something happens, the company tries to bring in some few things just to appease the local community. But the problem is there and it's reality. So basically this is the context that I wanted to share with you. So from now on, I think you can, if you have some questions, you can ask. If you have some ideas to share, those local communities in 2012, when they discovered that, because Vale promised to bring them water and to give them a school, hospitals, whatever, everything which was not there, Vale promised to give them. So when it didn't happen, they just said, we are going to block the railway because this is our call. And we know that the train which passes here is taking coal. That's the only thing that... so they decided to block the railway. They also decided to block the road. So you can guess what happened. So Vale contacted the government, the local government, and the government sent police. So 14 people were arrested, yeah, in that process. So later they were released because they know that local communities are correct. Yeah. So this is a process that repeats itself. Yeah. So it goes on, people go on strike, and whenever people go on strike, it's clear. In less than maybe 15 minutes, the police come, arrest some people. After some few days, those people are released, and life continues like that. Yeah. So there's no water. Yeah, there's no water, and many people have left those communities. Yeah, some have just decided to look for other places where they can go. Yeah, and there are very few people staying there. Yeah, so the houses are not prepared to be there because you cannot be there if your life is based on farming. Then you cannot be there. Yeah, it's not practical. It's not even sustainable. You will die because there's no water. Farming is not possible. You cannot go for fishing. Yeah, yeah, that's also another topic that I didn't talk about, but we are also dealing with that issue. Is the working conditions are not good? Yeah, there are many workers that are complaining. It's not only the working conditions that are not good. Vale does not respect workers. So you work there for 2 years, you have to be, the contract ends, so you have to apply again. Yeah, so when they started, the salaries were good, yeah, were good compared to the general situation in the country. But as time passed, now so far, whenever you apply again, your salary decreases. Yeah, and so far the working conditions are not good. Even the salaries are also not good. People get less than $100, so that's very little for Mozambique. So workers also came to us. They said, okay, you are fighting for local communities, but can you do something for us? Because we are also working in the mining. So is there something that you can do for us? Well, what we can do maybe is to try to come up with a labor union. But those labor unions, they are there in Mozambique. Each company has a labor union. But the point is, those labor unions, they don't function, they don't support workers. So once you are elected, for instance, as the president of the labor union of the company gives you a lot of money. They give you a car. So they bribe you for you to be weak. So it's like that, and even workers know that, oh, okay, nothing is going to happen. Yeah, so we decided to come up with another labor union, which is independent from Vale, which is independent from the government. Yeah. So that labor union is more of trying to solve what's going on. It has not been, it has started, it has been recognized even by the government, but it is beginning stages, so we'll see what's going to happen. But the idea is to support those workers, because the conditions also in the mining are not good. Working basically are not from Tete, they are not from Mairoce. And that's another problem, because when Vale went to Tete, they promised to give employment to local people. But when they started, they said, you are not qualified to work in the mine, so you cannot get employed. And people said, what kind of qualifications do we need to work in the mine? Are there no work maybe for poor people who are not skilled? Because most people, these people that I'm saying, they're not skilled, they have at least secondary school education. Yeah, but Vale says, you are not skilled. So people from outside, from other provinces come, and you can imagine the tension that is there in Tete between local communities and the people who are coming from other states. So this is the situation. Apart from Vale, we had Rio Tinto. Rio Tinto just decided to sell their mining to Jindal. It's a company from India. So far, the mega project we have there is Jindal and the Vale. As you said, the prices have been decreasing in the international market, but Vale, I think they have a secured market. The coal which is being extracted is just for exportation. We don't use it in Mozambique. It goes to India and other places in the world. So the quality of the coal is also high quality. Yeah. So there are some plans also to make some metallurgy companies there.
Just for steel.
Yeah. To produce the electricity, yeah, from coal, but those are just projects. It has not started. Yeah. So there are also some companies, some Chinese companies that are interested to also extracting coal. Yeah. So although the prices were down last year, but this year I think the scenario has changed, because even according to the revenue that they got, they say they got a lot of profit. Yeah, so I think that's not really a big issue for them. Yeah. The movement, this process, the whole process of resisting is being done by very few civil society organizations, because I cannot talk of NGOs, because usually we differentiate between NGOs from civil society organizations. NGOs, we say those huge organizations, but civil society movements, small organizations, grassroots organizations, these are the ones that are fighting. Yeah, so they don't have even funding. Yeah, when we go and we fight, it's at our own risk, and even the government knows that these people are weak. We can fight with them at any time. So sometimes when we fail, or whenever we know that we are going to fail, because sometimes we fight and we know we are going to fail this case, so we go on strike. Yeah, we use strikes as the last resort when we know that this is going to fail, but at least people are going to know that we are fighting about this. Yeah. So there are very few movements, yeah, and those are local movements based on local initiatives. Yeah. So that's why I said those people are also considered as part of the opposition, because you are opposing the plans of the government, because the government is not doing anything against that. you're also opposing the plans of Vale, because definitely Vale pays taxes. So if you are going against those projects, you are also going against the government. And there are many consequences about that, yeah, for social activists, because in the case of Mozambique, once you are connected to these problems, you cannot even get employed in the government, and the government is the major employer in Mozambique, so you cannot get employed. And it's not only in the government, even in the private sector, because who owns private companies in Mozambique are the politicians. So they are the same people who are running the government. So once you start dealing with these problems, you should know the consequences first. So when we go there, we are aware of all the consequences. So sometimes even being threatened, it's normal. For instance, for me, when I'm working there, to receive SMS threatening me, so I say, well, it's normal, it's part of my work. So I don't even get worried, because I can receive them a month, maybe 5, and I know I'm going to receive them. Yeah. So that's part of the work. Yes. First of all, it's something that I decided to do since I finished my studies. It's something that I know the situation of my country. So the first idea, we are a group of young men who are doing this, young men and young women who are doing this. And the point is, something came to us even when we founded our civil society organization. We said, we cannot wait for people from outside to do something for us. We can do something for ourselves at our own risk, because if we don't do this, no one is going to do it for us. So what we can ask for is technical knowledge, maybe support also from outside. But we have to take the risks. If we don't take them, no one is going to take them. So about the funding and how do we survive, most of the times, personally, I'll talk of myself, I knew of the consequences, so I decided, first of all, to have my own farm. Yeah, so I have a farm, and since I know that the government is not going to employ me, so on weekends, because I do this during the week, and also I also have a family, and the family doesn't want to know what I'm doing. They don't care. They want to have something to eat. They want to live. So as I have a family, so I'll have to take care also of my family. So for that, I have a farm, and on weekends I spend my time on the farm. I'm working there. Yeah. So the little money I have, I spend it on the farm, because I know the consequence of the work that I'm doing. Yeah. So this is what I've been doing, and this is what most of us are doing. And some of us have even cattle. They create animals, so in the end they sell, and we survive doing that. And that's also the way we run our offices, because we have to pay rent. Sometimes we don't have people to fund us, so we contribute among ourselves to pay rents, yeah, for electricity, and all this is just coming from ourselves. So that's the way we decided to find to survive. Yes. It's a huge issue so far in Mozambique, and so far Mozambique is suspended from IMF and World Bank programs because of that project, and it's a long project. I don't think that I can explain it here, how it started and how it ended, but basically Mozambique is so far suspended from the IMF programs, yeah, because of that issue of tuna. And the World Bank is not, even the World Bank and the IMF, they are not involved in Vale company, and they are not even involved with coal mining companies. Yeah, but the approach which these mega projects are using is the same approach of the World Bank. Whatever they are doing in the country is not for the benefit of the country. Yeah, all the things that are being done in Mozambique, they're going outside. Yeah. So what we say this because it's very clear. Yeah, Vale is not the first company to be in Mozambique. We also have another very successful company in Mozambique, which is Mozal. Yeah, that's a very successful company which produces aluminium. But it's not affecting the lives of the people. Yeah. So if you go to the reports from the World Bank, definitely you are going to get very beautiful reports, and they are very beautiful numbers. It will tell you that the GDP of Mozambique is growing at a 7% rate, which is true. But most of the times when we are dealing with this issue, we don't care at which rate the GDP is growing. If it's not affecting the people, for me, it's useless. Yes, if GDP does not affect the life of the people, because if you tell me that GDP is growing and we go and we ask people, how are you living now? And they say we are worse than last year, it means that their life is becoming even worse. Yeah, so the GDP is not changing anything. And the other point that also you should know is that most of these companies, they don't employ many people. They have a lot of technology, very few people there. So in the end, they don't affect anything. And the new approach of these mega projects, they don't build anything, yeah, in the country. So they are there, they exploit resources. In the end, when they go, the country just is empty. If the government didn't use well the taxes that they received, so the country remains poor. And that's the approach of mega projects. So there's a point which many people make that mega projects are doing many things in Mozambique or even in Africa. But my experience says no, mega projects are not doing good for Africa. They're actually destroying Africa. Yeah, they should maybe change their approach. Yeah. That's my view. I am in contact. Last week there was a report which was done by one of the civil society organizations that I work with, and it was presented to the SADC, that's a Southern African community. So I'm always in contact, and sometimes I even give them some ideas, although I'm far, but we always communicate. This is happening. Yeah, so what can we do? Do you have new ideas? Do you have something? Yeah, so whenever I can, I give some ideas, but sometimes I can't because I'm also very busy with my studies here. Yeah. It's very difficult, yeah, in Mozambique. I don't know why, but funding for local civil society organizations that are doing this work is just difficult. Yeah, maybe because some NGOs that have money, they don't want to be labeled as linked to these civil societies that are fighting. Yeah, yeah. So some local, there was one local foundation that helped us for some time, but local foundations also have the same problem of money. So in the end, they stopped. But the point for us is whether we have money or not, we are going to use even our own means to go and fight for our communities. So that's the idea we have. And the point is, those communities also have to learn to fight for themselves, because one day we are not there. We are not going to be there forever. So we want to give them the skills in order for them to be resilient and to fight for themselves at a certain point. Because the issue of natural resources is a fact in Mozambique. So people have to learn how to fight because resources are there. In Tete, the only international NGO that was there for some time that was supporting some civil society, it was Oxfam, yeah, from Australia. Yeah, but after that, I didn't see much from that. Yeah, so most of those NGOs, they are fighting. Yeah, yeah, I think that's a very important point. My suggestion would be maybe to have some connection between organizations that are working here with those that are in Mozambique, for instance. Yeah, to work together and see what can be done together. Yeah, maybe if some can go there and see what's going on also, that will give a different perspective also. Yeah, and sometimes it's better for you to fight from here. Yeah, because as you know, these mega projects are very powerful, and sometimes even our local governments are so weak that they can't deal with them. But from here, they they are more accountable. Yeah, if something comes from here, they pay attention. Yeah, so I think those connections would help in that sense of putting pressure on them also from here, not only from there. Yeah. The project of Vale, it has a duration of 25 years that are renewable, which means that I'm not seeing Vale leaving Mozambique in less than 25 years. Because, and I'm sure that even in 25 years, they will not be able to extract the whole coal which is there. Because the case of Moatize, according to recent research, is that the whole district is under coal, and that's a higher quality coal. So, in the end, I wouldn't be surprised if every community in Moatize is relocated, because that can be the case. Yeah. Even there are even plans to remove the airport from the place where the valley is extracting coal, because they found out that even underground of the airport there's coal of high quality, so they're going to remove the airport. Yeah. So I'm not seeing Vale removing, going out of Mozambique. Yeah, and so they are in Mozambique maybe to stay. Maybe after getting all that they want, they can plan to go. Yes? By the case of the police, the relationship between our police and people who go on strike is not good. Just some 4 weeks ago, one people was shot dead by the police because they went on strike against Vale. Because what Vale did, as I said, there are some communities that still remain in Moatize. They were not moved. And those communities, they want to have access to water. Although the water is dirty, but they use that water maybe for bathing, for any other thing. So what Vale did, they just put a fence. Yeah, they said no one should get access to this water from this concession of ours. So people went on strike. People decided to destroy the fence, and when the police came, they just shot one person. Yeah, so this happened 4 weeks ago. Yeah, so this is the way the police deals with people who are on strike. They are very violent. So when they are coming, it means that anything can happen. Yeah, so they are very violent, and sometimes we have a special police in Mozambique which deals with the people who are on strike. Well prepared, well trained, but whenever they are dealing with civilians, it's like they are armed. Yeah. So they use excess of force for civilians who are not even armed. Yeah. So that's the way they deal with local communities. Yeah. And on how much coal that came to German, I'm not sure about that, and I'm not even sure whether Vale is exporting coal to German. I'm sure of India. Yes, they're extracting a lot of coal. There should be some, but I'm not aware of that. Yeah, but there's a lot of tons of coal that is being exported every day with Vale. Yeah, they even have a port just for that in Mozambique, yeah, which is being managed by Vale, just to extract coal. Every day you see trains moving, transporting coal. So in the end, I will do some research. I don't even know how many countries that they are sending the coal to. So, is there another question that I forgot? We have our land law in Mozambique, which says that 20% of the taxes that a company pays should go to infrastructure in order to develop local infrastructure. But that has not happened. Yeah, so, and it's not happening anywhere in Mozambique. So all the taxes that we are getting so far, it's really difficult to know where it's going. Yeah, so it's not only about those places, even other places where there are companies like Mozal. We don't even know what the government, how the government is using those taxes. Yeah, so it will be good, yes, to have better infrastructure, something that maybe later, after so many years, we'll say, okay, there was a company called Vale where they went, but we have this as a result of their stay here. But that's not going to be easy. Yeah. So since now we are trying to discuss with the government about how to get these companies accountable, we'll see what the government can do. Yeah, so far, because so far the company is trying to improve the houses. Yeah, even this week as we are talking, they are there. They are trying to see what they can improve in the houses because they have a lot of cracks and things like that. But the point is, those houses, they have no future because the major thing to do is to destroy the houses because they are a risk for local people. Yeah, because those houses, they can fall at any time. Yeah. First of all, they don't have foundation. Yeah, when they were built, they didn't even use iron. Yeah, they don't have pillars. So those houses are dangerous to be in. Yeah, so it's a process. Yeah, because we also have a lot of interest from the government there. Yeah. So it means also that civil society organizations have to be very persistent in their fighting. Yeah, because once civil society organizations stop, then the government also will stop. Yeah. So someone must be always there to remind the government and to force them to do some things. Yeah. But as I said, it's a political problem. Yeah. This is not only a social problem, it's a political problem because the government has some interest there. Yeah. So that's what I see. Yeah. The issue of corruption, I think, is another topic which is so vast and very complicated also to deal with, because when we talk of corruption, it's a pity, but that's the reality. Corruption is everywhere in Mozambique. When I'm there in Mozambique, I see corruption everywhere. So it's not only in the government, but even in public offices. Whenever you go, you want to get anything from the government, you see corruption. Yeah. So if you don't want to play according to the rules of those corrupt leaders and even corrupt civil servants, you won't get what you want. Yeah. So if you are in Mozambique, no one will tell you whether there's corruption or not. You will feel it, because once you go to a public office, you want one document, you are not going to get it. A document that you can get in 5 minutes. They'll tell you, okay, the boss is not around to sign the paper. You come tomorrow. You go there tomorrow, the paper is there, it's signed already. He's not around. Come tomorrow. So it's a way, but Mozambicans understand the language. They understand, they know. They say, come on, give me my document. How much do you want? I want this. They get their document. So it's becoming like a culture of corruption. Because since people know that I can get this very easily by paying him, and the person also knows that the best way to get money is just to hold this document. Yeah. And everyone knows about it. So this corruption that we are talking about, it's not easy to fight because it's something which starts from the basis. Yeah. It's everywhere. Yeah. It's not only those corrupt leaders. Yeah. And sometimes I laugh because I say, well, corruption is a disease that starts from the local community. Yeah. So those local leaders are corrupt, yes, but they are a reflection of our local communities. Yeah. This is the reality. Because if we want to fight corruption, we have to start from the basis. And there's corruption everywhere. It's not only in this business of coal mining, no, even in the roads. You are driving, you stop, you don't pay, you won't move. So you drive, those who understand the language in Mozambique, you are stopped by traffic police, you just give money, and you are given back your documents, you are going as if nothing has happened. But many things happen when a car stops. Yeah. So whenever someone like me, I'm stopped by the police, and I give them all the documents, they look at me. Sometimes I remember once they asked me, "Are you a Mozambican?" I said, "Yes." "Why is that you don't understand our language?" I said, "Which language?" Because he was expecting to get something from me. So I said, "Oh, which language? You have all the documents. Is there something wrong with those documents? Is there something wrong with the car that I'm driving?" I said, "No, you are not. You are not a Mozambican. You shouldn't be a Mozambican." I said, "Why?" Because that's not what they expect. Yeah. It has become like and no one is going to ask because this is happening. So it's something that is not going to be easy to fight. Yeah. Because it's everywhere. Yeah. There are people who want to fight against it, but sometimes they just get tired. Yeah. They just get tired. Sometimes they just surrender and say, anyway, we need some people who are be willing to fight. Because even as civil society organizations, you start fighting corruption. If you don't have support from the government, nothing is going to happen. Yeah. Because the government is the one that is supposed to change the rules, yeah, or to enforce the rules. But if the government, if those who are in high positions are the first to corrupt and to bribe even other people, so nothing is going to happen. So this issue of corruption is not only the case of Vale. Most of these international organizations, when they go, not only in Mozambique, even in Africa, the first thing they do, they bribe them. Because they know if they don't bribe them, if you want to play according to the rules of the game or to the law, you are not going to be successful. Even if you are a very successful company in Europe, there you are going to fail. So the best way, they also understand the game, and okay, the point is what? Maybe to give 5% of the shares from the company to one of the leaders, they do that. So you find most of these companies that go to Mozambique, they give 5% of their shares to one politician, and that is it. So you can fight against them, nothing is going to happen. It's a process. And actually, if you read our laws, they are very beautiful, yeah, but no one follows them. They're just there to show you that we have a constitution, we have this law, and we have even very beautiful law, because most of the times what they do, they just cop. Because I remember once the European Union was also worried about Mozambique on the issue of corruption. So the government said, oh yeah, so let's fight corruption. So the way they fight corruption, they said, okay, let's create an office to fight corruption. So we have the office which fights corruption, but nothing is happening. So the European Union spends a lot of money giving those people there, but nothing happens. So when you ask them, no, we have an office, we are doing something. But that's the way they are fighting corruption. Having more office, spending more money, yeah, but in reality, nothing happens. Yes. That's a very positive point in the case of the European Union. But the case of Mozambique, most of the times people even thought of that because we have SADC, that's like a European Union, that's the Southern African Community. But it also doesn't function because our SADC is like a club of friends. When those presidents meet, they are not there to improve their countries, but they meet in order to see, okay, what can we improve as leaders? How can we travel without any problem? How can we get an African passport? I'm not talking an African passport for a common citizen, but for African leaders. So in the end, everyone, when they meet, everyone says, well, it's a club of friends. Nothing is going to change. And I don't expect much from them. Yeah, so that's the difference. Yes. In the household, there are some people who are producing bricks. They use coal just to burn those bricks. Yeah, but those are very few. Yeah. And so far, even those people who used to produce bricks, they have also been evicted by Vale because they ended up being inside the concession. So Vale said, you have to go out of this place. And so far, they can't do anything because even if they want to produce bricks, they don't have access to water. You need a lot of water if you want to produce bricks, and you need coal. So they don't have access now to coal, they don't have access to water, so they can't do anything. So that business has stopped completely. Yeah. As you said, it's not an easy work. Yeah. It's very difficult. As you can imagine, I've been doing this since 2011, and sometimes I go home disappointed. Yeah, because whenever I want to talk to a leader, and he knows that that person is outside, and he says, tell him that I'm busy, he can wait, and I can wait for 3-4 hours, and I say, no, I'm going home, I'll come tomorrow. And in the following day is the same thing. Yeah. But I keep on coming and insisting because I know that this is the only way, this is the person who was elected. Yeah. Sometimes we fail to get what we want in a formal way. We also use a different way, which I didn't even explain to you. Whenever a politician is very tough and he doesn't want to talk to us, and there are many like that, we just refuse to talk to social activists. So what we do, we just do a certain kind of study. We call it a political study. So we try to understand him. Who is he? Where does he live? Who are his friends? Yeah. So we try to understand. So if we find someone who is connected to him that is also our friend, we go there to try to influence the person, tell him, you know, we are fighting about this. And we try to explain to the person the objective of what we are doing. And we have many people who have been helping us about that. Some professors from university, oh, do you know this person? Oh, he was my student. You are a better person now to help us. We want your student because this person is making wrong decisions. So what we want, just tell him that there's someone who wants to talk to him. Because if his former professor calls him, he's not going to refuse. Just tell him, let's go for beer. And we go, we sit. So sometimes he doesn't know us, so we are talking. And the former professor introduced, oh, this is the person I talked to, you know, he's my friend. So he's doing some projects here. So what kind of project are you doing? And you start your business there. And your professor just keeps quiet. Yeah. And when something happens, he supports you. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I support you. So in the end, we build connections. And later said, so you were the one who one day came to my office? Yes, I'm the one. I wanted to talk to you about this issue. Okay. But we can solve this, not in a formal way. Because of the political party, you know, I depend on these decisions, they have to pass through this, but you are going to get what you want. And sometimes we get what we want in a very informal way, not in a formal way. So when we don't manage to achieve our results in a formal way, we use informal way. So we don't accept to be defeated. We can, okay, yeah, he has defeated us formally, but we are going to fight on the underground. Yeah, so we end up getting what we want, yeah, even in a different way. So that's one of the strategies we are using. So we may be defeated today. We believe, no, this is just one stage. We are going to fight, and we keep on fighting. And sometimes we annoy them because we say they are going to say no. So we organize also a group of people, because we have many people in Mozambique who don't work, who are not studying. They finished their secondary school but no employment. So what we do is we talk to them. You are not doing anything. We want people to put pressure on the local government. So what you do, your work is to go to his office every day in the morning at 8 o'clock, sit there and say, I want to talk to the local government. We know he is refusing. You do that for more than 3 weeks. In the end, he says, yeah, let's talk. And you say, okay, yeah, now, no problem. Yeah. So that's the pressure we put on them. So in the end, they give up. Yeah. The case of Vale, well, that one, it has not done, because Vale is a case which even links even the president of the republic. So I'm talking to cases, small cases, like in the province. Yeah, I remember the case of, there's another case, but this is different from coal mining. This has to do with toll gates. Yeah, in the toll gates, those, here in Germany you don't have them. We have toll gates where whenever you are driving, you have to stop and pay money, yeah, on the road. So what happened in Tete, they built 5 toll gates. Yeah, so they didn't improve roads, they just built for people to pay. So you can imagine 5 toll gates in a very small town. So we said we have to fight. So when we started, we had all this resistance, yeah, from the local governor. So we said the best way is to put pressure on him. Yeah. So that's the way we managed to get all those toll gates blocked up to now. Yeah, because we had to insist. He even didn't want to talk to us. Yeah. So when we insisted, in the end, he just said, oh, let's talk. What's the problem? Yeah, I said, okay, this is the problem. This cannot happen. We are not against toll gates because we want good roads, yes. But first, improve the roads. After that, put toll gates. Not the other way around. So he said, okay, so far, let's just stop the process. Yeah. So that was one of the points. Yeah. And I have other examples in other cities, yeah, with other projects, because we are not only in one city. We are trying to build these civil society organizations, these local civil society organizations, to work in their districts. If you are there, you are not being paid anything, but you can still do something for yourself. So far we are in 3 provinces. So that work is going on.
When you say we, whom are you referring to? Like just activists?
When I say we, I'm referring to those civil society organizations that are doing this work that I'm talking about. Yeah, because we have now in one state, in Manica province, we have in Tete province, in Sofala province. So we started this first in one province. So when we saw that there are results that can come out of this, we also went to other provinces and we started instructing. Actually, this coal mining is in Tete, and I'm not from Tete. I moved from my province just to go in Tete and to enforce these civil society organizations. Yeah, so this has been my work, first in my province. So there I know that there are many people can do what I can do. So I said, people, I'm moving, I'm going to Tete. So after that, I moved also to another province, which is Sofala. But I also got tired and I said, this is too much. I'll have to rest a little bit. Yeah. This is actually a huge challenge for local communities. But the first thing we do when we arrive in a community, we try to look for civil society organizations. You always have grassroots organizations who are not doing anything. So we take them and we tell them, you can be useful to your communities. So we instruct them how to do what we are thinking. So if they agree, we start a formation and we try to explain to them how to work and how to convince local communities. Yeah. And even so far, one of the things that most huge NGOs ask us, how is that whenever you implement a project with local communities, there are always, most of the times, you have people supporting you. First of all, we talk to the community. Before we try to do something, we talk to them. This is what we are planning. Do you support this project? People first used to tell us, for instance, when we started this project with Vale, we told them, we have to fight this. This is going to affect your lives. So people said, you mean we have to leave our farms and go and fight against Vale? In the end, we are going to die. Nothing is going to happen. We need food. Yeah. At home, people are going to ask us about food, not about Vale. So we told them, if you don't get involved in politics, then you will die slowly. Yeah. If you don't go now, today, to the farm, okay, you can die maybe tomorrow, after tomorrow. But if you don't get involved into politics, you will die slowly. You have to be involved in the politics. We had to explain to them that it's a must to be involved in the politics. You cannot live without being involved into politics, because politicians make decisions. And if they make decisions of what is going on in your life, you have to get involved with them. They are not neutral. So it's your business. So you can't say, no, it's not our business. It is your business. And we also explain to them why they must be involved in the politics. Say, do you pay taxes? Yes. Where does your money go? Those are the people who are managing your money. So you have to ask them how they are using your money. So now, right now in Mozambique, you find many people are involved in the politics. Yeah. So we say, this is what we want. We are starting. This is the beginning. So let's see what's going to happen. Okay. In Tete, we have a network which is called, this is called AJC, three times R, JC. Yeah, that's one of the organization which is forming local communities and local civil society organizations. And apart from that, we have another one which is a huge organization. We call it a network of organizations. Yeah, we call it a platform for civil society organizations. So we call it a platform because we call all those civil society organizations, yeah, who are not doing anything, to come together and follow up on many cases. So we have it in Manica province, it's called PLASOC. In Tete is PLASCITE, which is always starts with PLA, which is a platform. So because we discovered that it's better to work in a platform than as a single civil society organization. Because as a single civil society organization, we always get defeated. So as a platform, when the government asks, how many are you? We don't say, this is only one NGO. No, we say we are many, we are a platform. So how many organizations do you have? Like in Manica province, there are 40. So I said, we are 40 civil society organizations. So they know what we can do in the community. We can cause damage if they go against us. So we can go and mobilize the community in less than a week, so anything can happen. So because we are many, they get afraid. So this is the same strategy we are using in Tete, in Sofala, also in other provinces. That's what we are trying to tell people, that this civil society organization, that let's come together. If we come together and we fight together, they get afraid. So if you just go there as one NGO, one civil society, they'll say, who are you? How many are you? We are 50. In this province, we have more than 50 people. So this is the approach we are using.
And but the where you are from, your organization, so this where you're from, this organization organizes the platform or the network? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, this idea of networks, we started it in one state. Yeah. So when it got successful, because we discovered that the government respects more a united voice, so we said, then let's do it. Just let's replicate it. Yeah. So we also did it in other states.
And how is your organization called? Or
Mine is called Adeshpo. Yeah, Adeshpo. It's also a small civil society organization, no funding. Yeah, but as I said, we are always there working for the local community. And even there are many civil society organizations in Mozambique who are willing to do the same. They are even asking some members of these civil society organizations that are already linked, they call them to replicate the idea. And how do you do it? Because it's not also easy to deal with all these civil society organizations. You have to explain them that we are going to work and we don't have money. And sometimes it's not easy to understand this. Yeah, so you have to explain how does it work, why is that we don't have money, why are we working without money, because there are huge NGOs that are powerful, they don't do much, but they have a lot of money. So you have to explain to them that we are poor, we don't have money. And everyone here is poor, so we are doing the same work. The objective is not to be rich, but to change our lives here. So if we don't do this, no one is going to do it. Yeah. So if you want, come. If you don't want, that's fine. So we don't force anybody. And those who join, they know that no money involved. It's just work. Instead of being paid, you are going to give money to the organization. So that's the way we are trying to create this. And it's working. Yeah. In some places it's working. I know there are some places that people are just saying, it can't work because I cannot take my money and give the organization and still work. Said, yeah, but whether you like it or not, this is the way we are doing it. So if you don't want, we cannot force you. Because there are organizations that are saying, we are not going to do it. So it's okay. We are not forcing anybody. That's why we are just fought, because there are so many civil society organizations.